Ben!
Jacob,
Ben!
sorry. How are
Did
you
you
doing?
know cats like sour cream?
Cats like sour cream?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a thing.
Yeah,
Or
apparently.
anything milky,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but not for too long. I think it's not good for them if they're grown, right?
I
Ooh.
guess so. I don't know. But Shadow's only one, so she's probably not lactose intolerant yet.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that works.
Uh, you're not an expert in feline physiology.
Are you gonna become an expert?
In feline physiology, definitely not.
Yeah,
Although I have learned a lot about cats since I've become the owner of a cat.
yeah, makes sense.
I believe we are on chapter 40.
Yep, that's what I saw as well.
Would you like to go or should I go?
Um, I can go for it.
Oh, happy Hanukkah, by the way.
Happy Hanukkah. That's true. Chag Sameach.
Hanukkah, Sameach. I will go for it.
Okay.
Okay. Ach, kol zman shelo chazar v'lamad davar ze lishma. So in the previous chapter, we were talking about how if somebody does not learn Torah lishma until he goes back and learns it lishma, it doesn't go all the way up into, I believe, Atzilut was what he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
אין לימודו עולה אפילו בעשר ספירות המאירות בעולם היצירה והעשייה. So maybe he was talking about Bria. Um, right? So what he was saying was, if you learn Torah and it's not Lishma, then it creates a certain reshima, it creates a certain impression which can then be elevated further into the Eter Sfirot, into the 10 actual emanations of godliness in the Sfirot,
Mm-hmm.
which in a sense, even in Asiyah, the Eser Sfirot of Asiyah, in a sense, are meyuchad to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Yeah.
כי הספירות הן בחינת אלוקות, ובהן מתלבש ומתייחד אור אין סוף ברוך הוא ממש. Right? So godliness is truly revealed in the 10 ספירות, ובלעד חילור חימור לה יכלה לסלקה למקם קדם הוויה. Right? And like this quote from the Tikkunei Zohar, right? Without love and fear, they cannot go rise to stand before Havaya, right? So anything that lacks these two wings, and this in a very real sense is an essential part of the novelty of the Hasidic method, which in turn sparked the Musar movement in Lithuanian circles. And Lithuanian is basically a euphemism for the opponents of the Hasidim, who did not think that it was incredibly important to have an emotional involvement in Torah just as long as you did it, right? But Hasidism came along and lit a fire within Judaism that has spread in an incredible manner. And that's
Mm-hmm.
part of why, at least in Chabad, Hasidut, being a Hasid is sometimes defined as being a lamplighter, right? To create that spark, that light, which catches fire and rectifies everything else.
Joseph the Lamplighter. I
Who?
read that it was just an article that I read or we read
Aha.
on
Aha.
Friday night.
Sounds good. How is the Chabad community in Austin?
They're doing good. They're
They're doing
busy
good.
lighting menorahs all over the place.
This is what Chabad next do. Yeah, yeah.
And they've got a menorah. They got a menorah. They got a menorah to put on top of the car.
Yeah. Those mitzvah tanks. It's. I mean, it's. I have to say, when the Rebbe came out with the mitzvah of mitzvah means campaign, not mitzvah, mitzvah. The campaign of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a literally apocryphal holiday, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's and frankly, I mean,
Extraneous to the Bible, you mean?
yeah, it's not biblical. It's a minor holiday in the Jewish calendar, and I mean, even 20 years ago when I was in Israel, you could see the difference. It was not the huge deal that it is in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly in Iran, and certainly 50 years ago, like 50 years ago, very few people even knew Hanukkah existed, right?
Yeah.
It was something that Orthodox Jews, the type of people who fast on Tzom Gedalia and Asara B'Tevet, right? At the very least, you had to be the type of person who fasted on Shva Asar B'Tammuz, or at the very least Tisha B'Av, right?
Mm-hmm.
More people knew about Tisha B'Av than knew about Hanukkah.
Yeah.
And the Rebbe, based on a halacha that the whole point of lighting the candles is pirsuming denisa, right? Is advertising the miracle on which, I mean, that is the only real mention of Hanukkah in the Talmud.
Mm-hmm.
The Rebbe started this campaign of using of having like mitzvah tanks and handing out candles and all this stuff on Hanukkah, and the entirety of the Jewish community, from Reform straight through ultra Orthodox, was opposed to the Rebbe on this, partially because there was a feeling in the Jewish community that it would be better if there was less public celebration of Christmas. And what happened was that the Rebbe, in having these public menorah lightings, I mean, it went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in a case that had to do with a nativity scene. And the Supreme Court allowed the nativity scene because of the Chanukiah, because of the menorah that Chabad was lighting.
Yeah.
And if you look at the amicus briefs on that on that Supreme Court case, everybody, like the entirety of the Jewish community, I think Agudat Israel even came out with an amicus brief against Chabad on this.
Agudat Israel, is that conservative?
No, Agudat Israel is the ultra Orthodox. It's
Ultra,
Hasidic.
okay.
Yeah. When I tell you, it's like it was the entire gamut of Judaism. I'm pretty sure the Orthodox Union signed on to it. Whatchamacallit, against it.
Mm-hmm.
Amicus brief to the Supreme Court against it. And like nowadays, like Hanukkah, people we used to say Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah Jews, right? Those were the people who only went to synagogue once a year. Now we talk about Hanukkah Jews
The
because
Hanukkah Passover Jews.
there are there are definitely people whose only real connection to Judaism is through Hanukkah, which, in a very real sense, is a holiday that became what it is through. If you read that, it's a nonfiction book uh, by secular authors, the Rebbe's Army. It walks you through the Hanukkah campaign and how revolutionary it was.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think it's probably very ironic. I guess I don't know if that's the right use of ironic, but it's very ironic that this is the holiday that most uh, Jewish people who are not very observant, this
think
is the
is
only thing,
this is the only thing they keep.
because
Yeah,
this is the holiday that is the fight over assimilation. So,
right. Yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, a more cynical person would say, "Oh, well, of course, you picked a Jewish holiday right next to Christmas, right?" And you kind of, but this was very indicative of the Rebbe's manner, right? The way the Rebbe did things, right?
Yeah.
First of all, it's solidly based in like a return to ancient Jewish values, right? Like this idea that the ikar, that the whole point, like what is the mitzvah, right? Halachically, what is the mitzvah? What do you do on Yom Kippur, on Hanukkah? You light Hanukkah candles. That's the special thing you do.
Yeah.
And what is the ikar of that mitzvah? It's pirsumei denisa. It's advertising the miracle, right? So the Rebbe was completely founded on a Jewish concept that's ancient, that's thousands of years old. And by focusing on that, he was able to create something that set a fire way beyond anything anybody could have anticipated.
Yeah.
So there you go. So with the Chilur Chimun, right? You set a fire that goes all the way into the Eser Sfirot of, at the very least, Asiya. Got it?
Got it.
Shebahem omdim hamalachim, where the angels stand. Okay? Uchamo shekatav harav hachaim vital, right? Morenu harav hachaim vital. Zichrono lebracha, b'sha'ar hanevuah perek bet. He wrote in the Portal of Prophecy, chapter 2. Shema haTorah shelo b'chavana nivraim malachim ba'olam hayetzira, ומהמצוות בלי כוונה נבראים מלאכים בעולם העשייה. Right? So we see that imperfect mitzvot, imperfect limud Torah, right? Study of the Torah, right? It creates malachim, it creates angels, forces of good in the lower worlds, right? But it does not directly connect and unite with true godliness.
Right. Yeah, so without kavanah, it's created in a lower or the lowest world.
Yeah, and it's something chitzoni. It's something that is not truly godliness. V'chol hamalachim hem ba'alei chomer utzura. Right? So a malach is something that has some connection to physicality and finitude, right? Form, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Aval Torah shelo lishma mamash, right? A Torah that is learned not for the right reasons, but for the wrong reasons. Kagon livyot talmid chacham o chai gavna. Like, God forbid, wanting to be a great person, learning Torah because you want people to respect you. Eina ola klal lamala afilu lehachalot umador hamalachim dekedusha. This is something that gets bogged down in the klipot, in the husks of selfishness and me, right? Because if somebody is learning Torah because they want to be a rabbi, right? They're like, hey, if I learn Torah, I'll be a rabbi. Wouldn't that be great? Chas v'chalila. Ella nish'eret lamata ba'olam hazeh hagashmi shehu mador haklipot. It stays in the physical world, which is the abode of the husks. כמו שכתוב בזוהר חלק ג' דף למד א' עמוד ב', like it says in the Zohar, part 3, page 31b. V'daf kuf kaf aleph amud bet, and page 121b. Ayen sham. Go and see what it says there. Hahi mila salka ubaka rakiin hulu ve'itar ma de'itar. This word goes and pierces the heavens, and it evokes what it evokes. Itav tav. If a good thing, look there. Vadaf kuf hey. I have no clue what this quote from the Zohar is being brought to tell us, but that's because it's the Zohar and I'm me. Vadaf kuf hey amud aleph, page 105a. Milad oraita it avid mine kala vesalik. From a word of Torah, a voice is formed which rises. V'daf kuf samach chet, 168b. Okay. Kalin de oraita utzlota bakin rekiin. The voice of Torah and prayer pierce the heavens. All three passages from the Zohar indicate that words of Torah ascend on high, rending the heavens.
Right, so just like, I guess, like the simple interpretation is just like the words with kavana reach up high. He's telling us here the words of Torah. This is what the Zohar is saying about them and how they beget. Like if it's good, then it'll beget something good up high as well.
Yeah, but he was just talking about how it doesn't go up if it doesn't have the thing.
If it doesn't have kavana.
Yeah, if it doesn't have love and fear.
Yeah. Right.
וכמו שכתוב בזוהר על פסוק, מה יתרום לאדם בכל עמלו שיעמול תחת השמש, right? Like the Zohar says regarding, I believe Ecclesiastes, this is Ecclesiastes 1:3. What profit has a man of all his toils that he labors under the sun, right? Our sages point out that only man's labor under the sun, toil in mundane matters, does not realize any profit. The labor of Torah, however, is above the sun and does indeed profit a man. The Zohar, though, stipulates that afilu amala de oraita iavid begin yekare, right? So the Zohar says, so this is what. So if you do it for your own glory, right? Even work in the Torah does not rise. וזהו שאמרו אשרי מי שבא לכאן ותלמודו בידו, and this is the meaning of what our sages say, happy is the man who arrives here on high and his Torah is in his hand. What does that mean? Perush, שלא נשאר למטה בעולם הזה, that he didn't leave it behind, stuck in the husk of his selfishness.
Right. Okay. So he connected it to something higher.
Say that again.
Well, he connected it because, like you said, you can study Torah.
No, it's the other way around. If
Why?
you study Torah for its own sake, obviously it goes up into the highest realms.
Okay.
If you don't study it for its own sake, but yet you do study, then at least it goes up into some realms to create malachim, to create angels and holiness, right?
Right.
But if you study it lo lishma, he's creating a chiluk between lo lishma, meaning not with the proper intentions, and lo lishma, meaning with the wrong intentions. If you study Torah with the wrong intentions, chas v'shalom, God have mercy on our souls, then you are not only does it not rise up, it stays under the sun.
Right.
Because it is bound in the husks of your evil intentions, your selfish intentions.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah. And the way that I was thinking about it is, in slightly maybe less spiritual terms, is that if you use the Torah for whatever mundane purposes you can come up with in this world,
Yeah.
I need to become I need to, I want to be a better logician. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, but yeah.
That is also a lot, not lishma, right? That's if you do not make the Torah an axe, a shovel to dig with, right?
Right. So
If you turn the
stays here.
Torah chas v'shalom into a shovel to dig with, then chalila v'chas, yeah, it stays in the material realm.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Va'af doraita v'kudsha b'richu kol achad, and even though we know that godliness and the Torah are completely united, shahu rutzono achad, because the Torah is God's will, that which God wants, and God and His will are completely united, right? Hare kudsha b'richu ihu memale kol almen b'shaveh. ואף על פי כן אין העולמות שווים במעלתם. Right? So we have this contradiction that God is completely united in a way that has no difference. God has no parts. There is no less and more holiness within God. And God fills the entire world with His holiness. We see that the world has various levels of holiness, right?
Yeah.
There are some things which are like your tefillin, and there are some things which are not like your tefillin. והשינוי הוא מקבלים בשני בחינות. The difference comes from the side of the recipients in two aspects. האחד, שהעליונים מקבלים הארה יותר גדולה לאין קץ מהתחתונים, right? That those things which receive that which is more holy, right? Your tefillin receives a holiness, despite the fact that the holiness itself is completely, from its own aspect, completely undifferentiated. That which is received by those things that are more holy is greater than that which is received by those things which are not. והשנית, and the second, שמקבלים בלי לבושים ומסכים רבים כל כך כבתחתונים, right? That there are fewer garments and veils, right? That the holiness can enclothes itself with less hester panim, less of a veil than that which is more obviously holy.
Right, and this is the way that we similarly is how we view the generations, right? In terms of like the
Yeridat Dorot.
Yeridat Dorot.
Right, correct. Yeah. In terms of Yeridat Dorot, the earlier generations received a greater amount of holiness, and the holiness that was received was in a more clear fashion. בעולם הזה הוא עולם השפל בשני בחינות. And this world is the lowest of worlds in both respects. כי ההרה שבו מצומצמת מאוד עד קצה האחרון, ולכן הוא חומרי וגשמי. Right? So this is the Alter Rebbe explaining his differences with Tzimtzum Kepashuto, right? Because there were those who argued, and frankly, it's not even clear that there are people who argue that even the Vilna Gaon himself did not believe in Tzimtzum Kepashuto, right? That literally God had removed himself from the world, but the main point the Alter Rebbe makes is that God, despite the fact that he has in a sense removed himself from this world, right? That's only from our side, not from his side. כי ההרה שבו מצומצמת מאוד עד הקצה האחרון, ולכן הוא חומרי וגשמי, וגם זאת היא בלבושים ומסכים רבים. And second, right, even this, that it has gone through many constrictions, and it is the least of the lights that can be lit into this world. It is enclosed in many things and veils, right? Garments and veils. עד שנתלבש בקליפת נוגה להחיות כל דברים הטהורים שבעולם הזה, until it comes into the shining husk, right? And there it gives life to all of the things which have a capacity to be holy. ובכלל העולם הוא נפש החיונית המדברת שבאדם, right? Which includes that capacity of man to speak, right? Which is our so as the Kuzari very famously divides the world into 4 classes of creation. Domem, inanimate objects, which, like rocks, right, they exist. Tzomeach, which has a capacity to grow, right? So vegetation, tzomeach has a capacity to grow. Chayot, right? Animals, which are animated, which can move, right? And what is the 4th class? How do we distinguish what is the extra capacity that a human being has over that which grows, moves, right? Is medaber, that which is capable of speaking, right? ולכן, כשמדברת דברי תורה ותפילה בלא כוונה, right? So when a person speaks Torah or prays without true kavanah, true intention, אף שהן אותיות קדושות, even though he's saying holy words, ואין קליפת נוגה שבנפש החיונית מסך מבדיל כלל להסתיר ולכסות על קדושתו יתברך המלובשת בהם, right? So the Torah is not מקבל טומאה. The Torah cannot be in any way tainted itself, right? And so if someone says Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, right? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? Even if he has, I would say, even wrong intentions, but at the very least has no intention, right? That doesn't mean, chas v'shalom, that the klipa, that the husks can truly grasp on to these holy words, right? But as they are, they stay in the lower world. כמו שהיא מסתרת ומחסה על קדושתו יתברך שבנפש החיונית שמדברת דברים בטלים, right? As this shining husk conceals and covers the divine holiness in the animating soul when it utters idle chatter, right? So when the holiness, right? So I have, God help me, a holy soul which allows me to speak words.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I will say words of Torah, and sometimes I will say words that are just a waste of time and space. And sometimes, chas v'shalom, I will say words that are even sinful, right? So, in all of those cases, Elokai neshama shenatata bi tahorahi, right? The force, the capacity to speak that God gave in this animating soul, which allows me to speak, is itself holy, despite how I may enclose that holiness into holy words that are not as holy as they could be, or into worthless words, devarim betelim, or chas v'shalom, into even sinful words, right? That is a difference in that which is receiving from the holiness, not the holy capacity to speak itself.
Right. So when you say words of Torah using this holy capability of speech,
Yeah.
you are also expressing something that is purely from the divine soul.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the divine soul is expressing itself clearly, right? So when I use the speech to say words of Torah as I should, right? Then the meanness in me, right? My yeshut, my existence, myself is being nullified to the true power of the holiness that is from beyond me.
And the soul is enclosed in
the words.
But
right. So any word that I say, right, whether it's divrei Torah or devarim betelim, right, that is the life force that has been given to me to speak becomes enclosed in the actual vibrations and the actual physical manifestation of those words, right? But whether or not the holiness is revealed,
right,
depends on whether I have been expressing that which is godly, or things which are stam shtut from me, myself, and I.
Right. So to continue the metaphor, if you're speaking words of Torah, then you're clothed, or you're clothed in the garments of a king, something that expresses holiness and loftiness, as opposed to wearing something. If you're using it mundane, then you would have
When you're
mustard
speaking,
on your. You have a T-shirt with mustard.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, when you speak words of wisdom, when you speak words of Torah,
Mhm.
right, words of truth, right, people might mistake you for a wise person,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And when you say stupid things that aren't from Torah, that aren't from wisdom, that aren't from godliness, then it
They might
becomes
mistake you
obvious
for a fool. Yeah.
where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But the potential is there.
yeah. כמו שהיא מסתרת ומכסה על קדושתו יתברך שבנפש החיונית שמדברת דברים בטלים, ושבנפש החיונית שבשאר בעלי חיים הטהורים. Right? So also similarly in that which animates the ritually pure living creatures, right? The late atar panui mine, right? That even though we say that there's nothing which is completely divorced from God, right? Mikol makom ihu stimu dechal stimin v'nikra el mistater, right? So even though everything must ultimately come from God, right? He is stimu dechol stimin, that comes from the Tikkunei Zohar, I believe. Ibid introduction. Ibid what? Tikkunei Zohar. Ah, that's right. And as it says in Isaiah, he is the God who hides himself. The Gam ha'ara v'hitpashtut hachayut mimeno yitbarach. Right? Similarly, the illumination and extension of vitality. Mistateret belivushim u'mesachim rabim v'atzumim. From him is hidden in many dense garments and veils. Ad shenit labesh v'nistatra belivush noga. Right? Until it comes finally and is clothed and hidden in the garments of the shining husk. מה שאין כן באותיות הקדושות של דברי תורה ותפילה, right, which is not true of the pure words of Torah and prayer. The אדרבה, קליפת נוגה מתהפכת לטוב ונכללת בקדושה זו כנזכר לעיל. Like we explained above, that what happens is that the shining husk, when it is able to become a vessel for the holy words of Torah and prayer, right? That's where it actually starts to shine, right? That's where it becomes batel, it becomes nullified, and a merkava, a chariot that is being ridden by the holiness, right? That it has enabled in this world.
Yeah.
Mikol makom, however, ha'ara shebahen mikudushato yitbarach היא בבחינת צמצום עד קצה האחרון, מאחר שהכל והדיבור הוא גשמי. Yet, even in such a case where someone is actually speaking Torah, right? The best case scenario, somebody is actually filled kerishpei esh, like a flaming fire. He's filled with love and fear of God and speaking Torah and praying to God with complete and utter nullification to the holiness, which makes the shining husk and everything that has animated him shine in a way that it's utmost intent, right? At the very same time, that is still as removed from godliness as possible, because it is enclosed in that which is physical, right? This is dira betachtonia,
Mm-hmm.
right? Bati legani leganuni, right? I came into my garden, into that place which I was from before, right? We see godliness in a tiny bit of godliness in that darkness, and at the same time, it is both the pure and infinite light that it always was, and at the same time, it is completely different because it is surrounded by the darkness. Get it?
I think so. Yeah, I'm curious about like what curious about what he's going to say.
Aha.
Kavana.
אבל בתפילה בכוונה, בתורה בכוונה לשמה. But when we talk about prayer with intent, or Torah that is studied for the right reasons. הרי הכוונה מתלבשת באותיות הדיבור, הואיל והיא מקור ושורש להם. That intention is enclosed in, that is to say, permeates the letters of speech, since it is their source and root. שמחמתה ובסיבתה הוא מדבר אותיות אלו.
Well, it's like what we spoke about with the light. It's both the root, it's both the first thing and the last thing, the reason for creation, and the first thing that is created. So that's just like the Torah. I think he was using the Torah here in terms of it's the source.
Yeah,
it's the source, but it's also the ideal, the kavanah, what you're aiming for.
right. Yeah, it's the alpha and the omega.
It's weird. Yeah, I remember discovering that pattern, story pattern, first time when I was reading Paulo Coelho. Is that the right? Is that the right way?
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Just Portuguese. He's like a famous author, sort of.
Not famous enough that I know, but okay.
The Alchemist, you know The Alchemist.
Paulo
Coelho. He's like famous, I think.
Okay, fine. I mean, if I haven't heard of him, how could he possibly?
Anyway, but the thing, the pattern there was like that this guy he's an alchemist, and and he wants to find, I guess, whatever the alchemist wants to find, the stone or whatever, how to make gold out of everything. I don't remember exactly, but he tries to find something, and he goes through it, and then at the end of the book, where can he find all this stuff, or the meaning or whatever? In his home.
All right.
Where he started.
Yeah. You may have heard there's a famous story of a chassid who has a dream that in a faraway city, there on a bridge, there is a man who can tell him where there is a great fortune. So he travels to the city, and he goes and finds the bridge, and he sees standing on the bridge is a policeman, right? And he goes up to the policeman, and he says to him, yeah, I had this dream that in the city on this bridge there would be a man who would be able to tell me where a great fortune is.
Mm-hmm.
And the policeman tells him, are you kidding? What do you like? Why would you come all this way because of a foolish dream? I had a dream last night that in a small village there was this man who under under the floorboards of his house, there was a massive fortune. You don't see me traveling all over the world trying to find the massive fortune of this man. And so the guy goes back home and he digs under his floorboards and he finds a massive fortune.
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't heard this before.
It's a famous Hasidic story.
As famous as Paulo Coelho.
Apparently more famous because I've heard of him. Like I am the criterion by which being famous is judged. Apparently.
Yeah.
Okay. לכן היא מעלת אותן עד מקומה ב10 ספירות ליצירה או לבריאה. Right? Therefore, this kavanah, this intent, right, is able to bring it up to that level of the 10 sfirot of Yetzirah or even Beriah, לפי מה שהיא הכוונה בתחילו רחימו שכליים או טבעיים הולו כנכתב לעיל. Like we explained above, whether it is an intent of love and fear of God that is either intellectual, which we said goes all the way up to Bria, or that is natural, which has its root in Yetzirah, in the world.
Right. So just confirm for me my understanding here. If it's intellectual, it's maybe the utilitarian example of like fear of missing out on something or receiving some kind of reward.
So what we talked about last week is that when something originates in Chabad, right, Chochmah Bina V'Da'at, since during the shattering of the vessels, Chochmah, Bina, and Da'at did not shatter, right? So that which is intellectual, just one second. So if it is intellectual, right, then it has its root in the intellect, which has its root in Bria, in creation.
Yeah.
If it is something that has its root in your emotional faculties, right, in Chagat and Nehi, right, in Chochmah, in Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, then it's in Yetzirah because there was the shattering of the vessels.
Okay, so right. Okay, I got it opposite, but so yeah, so now I understand. I thought that I was higher. Okay.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but that's how I remember.
No, yeah, the intellectual is it's taking the capacity, and that's Bria, that's higher.
Yeah, and this is why Chabad is called Chabad Hasidut.
Right.
Because ultimately, there was no shattering in the vessels of intellect. There was a shattering in the vessels of the emotions. Okay. V'sham me'ir u'mitkale, or Ein Sof Baruch Hu, and there is revealed and shines forth the infinite light. Shehu Ratzon Ha'elyon Baruch Hu, which is God's desire. Hamelubash ba'otiot haTorah shelomed u'b'chavanatam, o b'tfilah u'b'chavanatah, o b'mitzvah u'b'chavanatah. Right? Whether it is in learning the Torah or in praying or in doing a mitzvah, with its proper intentions.
Mhm.
Beha'ara gedola le'ein ketz, with great divine revelation. Ma shelo yachol ha'ir להתגלות גלות כלל בעוד האותיות והמצווה בעולם הזה הגשמי, right? Which with an infinitely great brightness that can by no means shine forth and be revealed, while the letters of the Torah and prayer and the mitzvah are still in the physical world. Lo minei velo mikatzateh. Not a bit of it and not any part of it. Ad et ketz hayamin, until we come to the coming of the Messiah. Sheyit'aleh ha'olam megashmiuto, that the world shall rise up from its physical status. V'nigla kavod Hashem, and shall be revealed the glory of God. Kanichtav la'ayel ba'arichut, like we explained at length above. ושם מאיר ומתגלה גם כן הייחוד העליון הנעשה בכל מצווה ותלמוד תורה. And there in the higher worlds, there also shines forth and is revealed the supernal union affected by every mitzvah and by Torah study. Shehu yichud midotav yitbarach, right, which is the unification of God's characteristics. Shenichlal nichlalot zu bazu v'nimtakot hagvurot b'hasadim, right? Because ultimately, it is only through the complete unification of all of God's attributes together, right, that there is true revelation of godliness. Al yedei et ratzon ha'elyon ein sof baruch hu, which comes through the hour of favor of the blessed Ein Sof, right? When God's will is revealed in all of them together, Hameir mitgaleh bebechinat gilui rav va'atzum, right? That you have this great revelation of godliness when everything comes together and everything shines forth. Be'itaruta dilatata hi asiyat hamitzvot o esek haTorah, through an awakening from below, right? That's when we do a mitzvah or we busy ourselves in the Torah. Shebahen melubash ratzon ha'elyon ein sof baruch hu, right? That in this manner is enclosed the will of godliness, of God's infinity, blessed be He. Ach, ikar hayichud hu lamala mala ba'olam ha'atzilut. But when the main unity, right, the actual source of all of this comes even from above anything much beyond even the worlds of emanation. Shesham hu mahut va'atzmut midotav yitbarach, right? That where the core and essence of God's midot are united with its emanator.
Right.
Miyuchadot ma'atzilan ein sof baruch hu. V'sham hu mahut ba'atzmut ratzon ha'elyon ein sof baruch hu. Right? So we're talking about a place that is beyond all of this, where God and His will are one. V'ha'aratan levad hi me'ira bebriya yetzira asiyah b'chol olam mehen lefi ma'alato. Right?
Yeah.
That this emanates into creation. So yeah, I mean, he's talking about that which is beyond even emanation, and then into emanation, and then into the three worlds of creation, formation, and action.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, this is very nicely dovetails with with the readings of the Kabbalah Forgiveness, which is it's really deep Tomer Dvor stuff. Um,
Elijah, people have been asking about you. Where have you been?
Elijah.
And I have no idea who Pocahontas is. It might be Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If so, much we're honored.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it dovetails a lot with because it really talks about the practical terms, in terms of how to sweeten your own severity, and obviously how to see that in God, in God's actions, and how we can perceive His actions and His attributes. So it really kind of like talks about very similar things. Makes it very practical about the alignment, and what does it mean here in this world when it comes to the malchut of Asiyah. How does this look, and what are we supposed to do? So it's kind of cool to see that.
Nice. Maybe I should do some of the reading.
You should.
I have zero time. I've been running around like a chicken with his head cut off for the past 3 weeks at least. Okay, where were we?
ואף שנפש האדם עוסק בתורה ומצווה זו, והרתן לבד, היא מהירה. I think that one.
והרתן לבד היא מאירה בבריאה, יצירה ועשייה, בכל עולם מהם לפי מעלתו, right. ואף שנפש האדם העוסק בתורה ומצווה זו אינה מאצילות, right? And even though a person's soul might not come from the worlds of emanation themselves, מכל מקום הרי רצון העליון המלובש במצווה זו הוא עצמו הדבר, הלכה והתורה שעוסק בה, הוא אלוקות ואור אין סוף המאציל ברוך הוא, שהוא רצונו אחד, right? Even if your soul doesn't come from Atzilut itself. At that moment, when you become Batel and Merkava, you become a vessel for the godliness of God, God's will, and He is that which emanates, right? וברצונו יתברך האציל מידותיו המיוחדים בו יתברך, מיוחדות בו יתברך, and He, through His will, emanated these characteristics. ועל ידי גילוי רצונו המתגלה על ידי עסק תורה ומצווה זו, הן נכללות זו בזו, right? Then you have a unification all the way down into this person's actual physical body and actual actions and thoughts and speech. ונמתקות הגבורות בחסדים בעת רצון זו, right? And you have the unification of left and right together, right? Mm-hmm. At a time of God's favor. ובזה יובן היטב הדחילור חימו נקראים גדפין דרך משל. כדכתיב ובשתיים יעופף, right? And that's why we can refer to love and fear as two wings, as a mashal, figuratively, right? Mm-hmm. Like it says that with two wings will fly, right? Ya'ofef. וכמו שכתב הרב חיים ויטל זכרונו לברכה בשאר הייחודים פרק י"א, like the Chaim Vital says, שהכנפיים בעוף הן זרועות האדם, right? So hundreds of years before Darwin, Reb Chaim Vital very clearly says that just as a human being has two arms, a bird has wings. Ubatikunim pershu. And in the Tikkunei Zohar, they explained ha'oskim b'torah u'mitzvah b'tchilur chimu nikra'im banim, right? Somebody who engages in Torah and mitzvot with fear and love is called a child of God, right? Or children of God. Ve'im lav nikraim efrochim. Without it, they're called fledglings, right? The la yachlin lafarcha, that they cannot fly yet. Ubetikunim mem hey, tikun mem hey, the ofa hu me Metatron, okay? That it is written the figure of a bird represents Metatron.
What is Metatron?
This is way beyond me. What?
Do we know what this means?
Metatron is one of the
Rangers.
angels.
Are they talking about something in Power Rangers, or what's going on?
Metatron is one of the angels. I don't know much about it, but Metatron, in a sense, is referred to as God's scribe, God's sofer. What that means, the idea that he has permission to sit up in heaven, what that means, you can go ask your local Orthodox Kabbalist, which isn't me. Reshe delay yud v'gufa vav train godfin hey hey. Right? So we have the divine name, right? And you can, just like I have here, you can represent godliness as, right? You have the yud and the hey and the vav and the hey. The yud is the head and the vav is the body, and the hey can be the arms and the legs. Similarly, you can do that in the shape of a bird, and the two hays can be wings. You see that?
I think so.
Place the hays on either side of the vav.
Yep.
Right? And you get the shape of a bird. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. V'hayinu olam hayetzira shenikra Metatron. Right? So, the world of Yetzirah formation is called Metatron. What that means, I don't know. Uvo hen gufei halachot sheba mishnah. Vav, the body of Metatron, represents the body of the laws of the Mishnah. And this is supposed to be a translation, like Uvo hen gufei halachot sheba mishnah, right? And this is the translation.
Yeah.
Vav, the body of Metatron, represents the body of the laws in the Mishnah, since Mishnah is at the level of Yetzirah, as will soon be explained. For the body of the laws, i.e. the actual rulings determining what is permitted or forbidden, who is guilty or innocent, and the like, are related to the midot, which are represented by the letter Vav.
No.
Got it? Me neither. Vereshe delay hen hamochen ubechinot. Let me see if I have a good. Vav represents the midot, the 6 midot, right? That's why it's the number 6, right? And the yud and the hey can be said to represent chokhmah bina v'da'at, right? But here he seems to be saying that yud is merely that Chabad is merely the yud in this case. וראשי דילהן המוחין ובחינות חוכמה בינה ודעת שהן פנימיות ההלכות וסודן וטעמיהן, right? That's the inner aspect, not the actual physical actions, but the um, the reason and rationality behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Utrein gadfin de chilu rechimu hen hey ila'a shehi rechimu, right? So we refer to as hey ila'a as the two as love. The
The right
hey
side.
tata'a he yir'a tata'a, right? All malchut shamayim upachat Hashem, kepachad hamelech derech mashal, like
Mm-hmm.
the awe that a person has of the king, right? Shahi yirah chitzonit beniglet, that is that form of fear which is external, right? A fear of punishment and that which is revealed. Ma
Mm-hmm.
she'en ken yirah ilah, yireh boshet he mehanistarot lashem Elokeinu, right? So he's saying that so the highest of all is Yira Ila'a, and then um, we have Yira Ila'a, and then we have um, Ahava Ila'a, and then we have Ahava. Aha, I see.
What do you see?
Okay, so um, you have bitchilu, richimu, richimu, itchilu, right? You have um, so the four letters of um, the Tetragrammaton,
Mm-hmm.
Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, right? So bitchilu, richimu, richimu, itchilu, right? Um, with awe and love and love and awe, right?
Right.
So the greatest the greatest emotion you can have towards God is yirah ila'ah, right? Greater fear, which is fear of um, which is fear of embarrassment, right? Fear that you do something which God doesn't like, right? Not because He's going to punish you, but simply because He doesn't like it.
Does this I understand that, but does this connect to like the intellectual love and fear and the natural love and fear?
So usually, what we talk about is talui b'dvar and not talui b'dvar,
Right.
right? That is if it is something that is dependent on something else or not or independent, right? So higher emotions, and these are all emotions, right? Higher emotions are those things which are not talui b'davar, that are not things that have a reason to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if I am fearful of punishment or I want a reward, right? That's talui b'dvar. That is something that has a connection to something else, that is an external aspect to it. But if I merely have yirat haboshet, right? I have a fear God's um, of God's displeasure.
Yeah, I don't want to disappoint.
I don't want to disappoint God, right? Or I want God to be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the yud and the hey, right? As opposed to the vav and the hey,
Yeah.
right? But it's in that manner, right? So you have Yirah Ila'ah, which is the Yud.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Ahava Tata, right? I'm sorry, Ahava Ila'ah. You have greater love, which is the Hey. And then you have lesser love, which is Vav. And then you have lesser fear, which is the Hey. Right? And so he's saying that the two Heys are Ahava Ila'ah and Yirah Tata'ah.
Right.
Okay?
That checks out.
Okay, so that's what he's explaining.
Okay, so let's
Right?
go back to what he's explaining.
So the two wings denoting flight, namely fear and love, represent respectively the higher Hey, which is an allusion prevalent in the literature of the Kabbalah to love, and the lower Hey, alluding to the lower level fear, namely the yoke of the heavenly kingdom and the dread of God, similar to the dread of a king. Right? These two, he's very specific, right? It's bitchilu richimu richimu itchilu.
Yeah.
Right? So that's his allusions to the two Heys.
Okay.
And those specific Heys, right? The Hey Tata'ah, he Yirah Tata'ah, right? Ol Malchut Shamayim Upachad Hashem, and where he said earlier, Utrain God from the Chilur Chamil, and Hey Ila'ah, and Hey Tata, right? Hey Richimu,
He said the bushes, right? Yeah.
Ila'ah, right? And I think I explained it.
Yeah.
Okay. Ma she'en ken yirah ila'ah, yireh boshet, he me hamistarot la'Hashem Elokeinu, right? So when we talk about the yud, right, in terms of fear, right?
Higher fear.
He b'chokhma ila'ah yud shel Shem havaya baruch hu kamo shekatuv baraya mehemna, right? כי כמו שכנפי העוף אינם עיקר העוף, ואין חיותו תלוי בהן כלל, right? That they're external, they're extensions, they're extremities of a bird. כדתנן ניטלו אגפי הכשרה, right? That if you have a chicken that has no wings, it can still be a kosher chicken.
Because
you can chef it because it's still bar kaima. So
right, it's like healthy.
So
its essential elements are intact.
So the halachic parameter of what is considered a treifa is considered something too sick to shecht, is whether or not it's going to live a year. And you have a chicken with no wings, it could still live a year. It's not going to have fun. You're going to have to feed it yourself, but it's still going to live.
It's going to need help up the stairs.
Yeah. V'ha'ikar hu rosho v'chol gufo. But you take off its head, it's not going to live a year. V'ha'kanafayim einan rak mishamshin l'rosho v'gufo l'parcha b'hon. Right? The wings only serve so that it can move its head and body, right? V'kol v'kach derech mashal haTorah u'mitzvot hen ikar hayichud ha'elyon, right? In a similar manner, when we talk about the Torah and the mitzvot, right, they are that which is most essential. Al yedei gilui ratzon ha'elyon hamitgaleh al yedeihem, right? Because they reveal God's will, right? V'hatchilur chimu hen ma'alin otan l'makom sheyitzgaleh bo haratzon or ein sof baruch hu hayichud shehen yetzirah uvriyah, right? And so, similarly, this fear and love of God allow them to go up, right? To move, to fly, right? או אפילו בעשייה בעשר ספירות לקדושה, מקום, מצוות, מעשיות. Or to be unified in the world of action with the 10 sfirot, which are godliness, right? And v'chen mikra. So too is the most revealed level of the Torah, which is just the verses of scripture, right? אבל במשנה מתגלה הייחוד באור אין סוף ברוך הוא ביצירה, right? Mishnah, the oral law, is more spiritual, less embodied, and less finite than the verses. Talmud bebriah, right? And through the shakal and tarya of, right? So Mishnah is, that's very interesting. Okay, so Mikra is, so he's doing Mikra, Mishnah, Talmud, Kabbalah, right?
So yeah, Mikra, Mishnah, Talmud, Kabbalah. Yeah.
Right. So, and they correspond.
Actually, this kind of, I think we spoke about that. Actually, this was what I was thinking without the Mishnah in terms of, I don't know if I told you or Chazi, in terms of how I'm trying to like read the whole, like the parasha as a story, just get acquainted with it. So I have a body that then I then can attach the rest of the levels on.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of tracks with what he's saying.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't. If I only have a sense of the Kabbalah, for example, I don't have where to. I can't attach it to anything, so I don't really know how to. I can fly towards it anyway. So
yeah, I've always had a problem. I always viewed this as opposite. I always thought that it would be that, but now you're helping me to understand it, why it is in the manner. I always just assumed that Mikra would be Atzilut.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that's not so, because it is actually how it is in Asiyah. It is in action. Yeah.
Right, because I mean, if we say that the Torah is there to teach us something, then it is what we can. It's just like in the Talmud, where you're trying to extract the principle through the stories.
Yeah. It finally makes sense. Thank you.
Of course, no problem. I'm here.
This is why you're here. Okay. אבל במשנה מתגלה ייחוד האור אינסוף ברוך הוא ביצירה ובתלמוד בבריאה. דהיינו שבלימוד מקרא מתפשט הייחוד באור אינסוף ברוך הוא מאצילות עד העשייה. Right? That through scripture, God's light is revealed even in the lowest of worlds from where it comes from in emanation. Mishnah ad yetzira levada, right? With the Mishnah, it can only come down from Atzilut into formation. Talmud ad bria levada, and in the Talmud, through the Talmud, only in creation. Kichulan ba'atzilut, right? But all of them ultimately are from Atzilut itself, or from emanation, because they emanate from God's will, right? What God wants.
Yeah.
אבל קבלה אינה מתפשטת כלל מאצילות לבריאה, יצירה ועשייה, כמו שכתוב בפרי עץ חיים. But the Kabbalah is not, does not actually extend beyond where it comes from in the worlds of emanation. Vehine, אף תתחילו רחימו הן גם כן מתרי"ג מצוות, right? And even though love and fear of God are one of the 613 mitzvot, one to love God, one to fear God, אף על פי כן נקראים גדפן. They are still referred to as wings. Lihyot ki tachlit ha'ava hi ha'avoda ma'ava, right? Because ultimately it exists so that you would serve God with love. Va'ava bli avoda hi ahava betanugim lehit'anag al Hashem, right? But this pure love that is only the mitzvah of loving God is one of delighting in godliness. Me'ein olam haba v'kabbalat schar. Right?
Shabbat.
Yeah. Me'ein olam, yeah.
In a sense.
V'hayot la'asotan ketiv u'lamachar l'kabel skaran. Right? We are here to do what God wants today and in the future actually receive our reward. ומי שלא הגיע למידה זו לטעום מעין עולם הבא, someone who does not have this delight of God yet, אלא עדיין נפשו שוקקה וצמאה להשם וחלתה אליו כל היום, but rather he simply thirsts for God. ואינו מרווה צמאונו במי התורה שלפניו. הרי זה כמו שעומד בנהר וצועק, מים, מים לשתות. Right? And someone who desires God and loves God but doesn't actually learn the Torah is like someone who stands in the middle of a river and screams, water, water for me to drink. כמו שקובל עליו הנביא, hoi kol tzameh lechu lamayim. Like the prophet says, oh, you who are thirsty, go to the waters. Isaiah 55:1. Ki lefi pshuto eino muvan. Right? Because it's incomprehensible. What's he saying there? דמי שהוא צמא ומתאווה ללמוד, פשיטה שילמוד מעצמו. Right? If he actually wants to learn, then okay, he'll learn. What's the problem here? ולמה לא לנביא לצעוק עליו, hoi? And why is the prophet saying, hey, you? וכמו שמבואר במקום אחר באריכות. As is explained in a different place at length. So he's talking about the love of God, right? Someone who has a love of God and is thirsting for God needs to go to the waters, which is the Torah, to drink. It's not a thirst for water. It's a thirst for God.
But what is this note telling us here? Is that it's more about it's not only about the drinking of the water, it's like the action that comes out.
Now, if love of God were an end in itself, the service of prayer could suffice, for it creates a love and thirst for God. But because the purpose of love is that it lead one to serve God, the prophet exhorts us not to rest content with love itself, but to study Torah and thereby quench the thirst of godliness and also realize the purpose of love.
So the thirst is not enough. You want to quench it.
The thirst for God is not enough. Yeah. It must be combined with learning Torah, which teaches us how to act in the world and be godly.
Mm-hmm.
We went almost an hour and a half on that chapter. I don't know if we would be able to finish this next chapter in half an hour. I doubt
Yeah,
it.
might be a good place to stop.
Yeah. So chapter 41 next time. Let's see what our commenters have been saying. I saw one of those on a car Sunday at the menorah lighting. Yeah, in Toronto, there are plenty and plenty of Chabadniks. Toronto is one of the headquarters of Chabadniks in the world. I had no idea of the history you're sharing. I'm guessing she's thinking about history of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren says, wow. Nice hat, Ben. Very nice hat, Ben.
Mhm.
Elijah is very busy. He has so much going on right now. He's getting married.
Yeah, it's so much going on that he has to say RN instead of right now.
Yeah. Metatron is one of the Autobots. Optimus Prime's left-hand man.
Okay. I was never like a robotrikim guy kind of guy. Whatever that's called, Transformers. That's what it's called in English.
Yeah. How'd you call it in Hebrew?
Robotrikim. Robotrikim.
Trikim?
Trikim. Well, it's trick.
Or truck or trick.
No, trick. So it's like, yeah, it's anglo-saxon.
Oh, they're making a joke about truck and trick?
No, not truck, but trick. Yeah, so robot, like robot.
Yeah.
And trick. So I guess the robot makes a trick. So it's robot tricking.
Robot tricking. Okay. I don't know how these translators come up with these stuff. Mr. Max Scorpion. I'm wondering if this is which Max this is. I'm guessing this is Max the musician. Tanya, I've heard of this book. Love it. Why is the prophet saying, hey, you? The purpose of love, yes. Okay. So, how you doing?
Good. I might actually start the Tanya with somebody.
Start Tanya with somebody.
So like go through it with somebody. Like we're thinking of like learning something or going through some things, and he said that he's interested in the soul. Okay. So
there you go. So
there you go. But yeah, we'll kind of try to figure out how to like what context do we need before that.
Lilmod al manat lelamed, to learn so that you could teach.
Right.
Oh, you're becoming a total rabbi.
I'm gonna need to go through some of our stuff to make sure that I'm in a position where I can be somebody that can say anything with any kind of authority. You
can never say anything with any kind of authority. You can just tell people what you know. Even Rabbi Breitowitz, he answers whenever somebody asks him for a thing. When he paskins, he says, "Le'anut dati."
Mm-hmm.
According to the poverty of my mind,
right.
The poverty of his mind. Oy, if his mind is poor,
right.
Lo shavik mara. He doesn't let the rest of the world live when he says stuff like that. And our Haredi, I keep on telling my rabbis, our Noachides are the most Haredi people. They're constantly like, hey, you, Jew, why aren't you doing more mitzvot?
Mm-hmm.
And where you don't know the answers, Ben knows who you will point to. You have your Chabad rabbi. I'm really wondering what your Chabad rabbi thinks of like what he makes of Ben, who like is coming with his chitas to daven and
actually
has a weekly Tanya shir and like, but also like this is his first time like actually going to a synagogue on a regular basis.
Yeah, they don't let me lift the Torah anymore because I'm too weak.
What? You're too weak to lift the Torah? That must be. These Ashkenazi Torahs are really hard.
Well, the problem was that it was like they let me do it while I did it
almost fell.
It was good, but they let me do it like in one of the first in Bereshit, in one of the first
ones.
The left side is like.
Oh, Bereshit is Yeah, Hagba
So,
and Breshit is a killer.
so no, I didn't break, but I
Yeah,
looked
no,
very
I mean they
flimsy.
wouldn't let you
Yeah,
let it fall. Like
yeah.
everybody would have to fast.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, but like ah, so he was trying to humble you. Is that what you're saying? He gave you
Maybe.
Hagba. He gave you Hagba and Bereshit. Yeah, that's sounds like you have a very mean rabbi there, giving you Hagba and Bereshit.
I see he's giving me the right challenges. Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Interesting.
But yeah, so you sounds like you're busy in this Olam of Asiyah.
Yeah, I have been busy. I wanna I wanna do Fountain of Comfort stuff, but like, uh, well, hopefully this is the last week of classes for Pierce, um, and hopefully I can turn in all of my work. And for some stupid reason, like God has decided that I can't just renew my car registration. I had to get a smog check, and my car failed, and now I have to go get it fixed. And it's like, God, really? Amid all of this, like, you have to give me car trouble?
Yeah. Smog test. I thought you were supposed to have smog if you're in LA.
Well, my car is pretty. I mean, my car's a 2015. They usually like this. This is the first time I've had to do a smog test.
Mm-hmm.
The first few years, there's no point in making you do a smog test.
Yeah.
But this is the first year I've had to do a smog test, and um, it failed. And do you know why it failed?
Because the guy coughed.
No, because the sensor doesn't work. Not because it actually emits too much smog, but
Yeah.
because it has a problem with its sensor.
That's horrible.
Like I have the test. Like it did just fine,
Mm-hmm.
except for there's something wrong with the sensor. Chezi says Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Car troubles only occur when you don't have time for it. Uh, this is good. Oh, he is humbling you too. Is that like the teacher must be like he wants the students to be, show them how it's done? Me humble, that's never gonna happen. Uh, uh, I have no
Yes, so
idea.
we're gonna make sufganiyot today.
Sufganiyot. Ooh,
Yeah, today it's gonna be a good day.
sounds like fun.
Tomorrow might be a little might hurt a little bit, but today is gonna be a good day.
Why would tomorrow hurt?
I don't know how many sufganiyot I'll eat. Like I don't know if I'll.
Making sufganiyot is difficult. Most people start with latkes. You're gonna start with sufganiyot? Like, do
Well,
you have all the equipment to make sufganiyot?
you don't need too much stuff.
Are you gonna deep fry it?
Deep frying stuff. First
Yeah.
of all, Melanie does most of this, but
Okay.
the deep frying is literally 20 seconds.
Yeah, but you well, I guess you could just use a pot or something.
We use a pot, yeah. We don't.
Yeah. But you need a strainer or something to. No, I guess you there's all kinds of stuff you can use.
No, we don't have fancy stuff. We make it.
You don't have fancy stuff and you make sufganiyot. Well, just as long as there's enough powdered sugar.
Yeah, that's
The
a
powdered sugar is
sugar
my
makes a difference. It's true.
It would be nice if I could actually watch the content on my own channel. Like the fact that there's like I watch less than half the content on my own channel should tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ben can't lift the Torah or the Sufganiyot. Good question. Sandy spelled Sufganiyot correctly.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, sufganot are easy to lift. I can lift a bunch, about 12.
What are you gonna fill them with?
Jam.
Jam?
Like, I mean,
Taking
yeah.
taking the easy way out?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's. I used to like.
Custard.
I used to like, just like, I wouldn't eat the jam when I was a kid. I would just eat either. I would look for the ones that are don't have anything, or I would
Yeah.
just eat it and then avoid the center.
Yeah, the jam. I mean, depending on the jam, I think you have to be careful about using too sweet of a jam.
Yeah, no, we don't use too sweet. And then we're gonna experiment, because this is the second time that we've done this. So we're gonna experiment with chocolate. And
Chocolate works.
there,
Yeah.
we've got my favorite chocolate, which is chocolate de chacha.
Ah, me too. Yeah, I like dark chocolate. Yeah,
Um,
and you can't really do milk chocolate with for sufganiyot because then they'll become milchig, and then yeah,
well, they are dairy.
they are. Oh, you're making
Well, ours
dairy
we're gonna make some
sufganiyot?
dairy. We're gonna have fish, so we're good.
Ah, okay, very nice. I have no idea what Chazi is recommending there. Let's see what is it. Uh,
Roladin. I mean, yeah,
what is roladin?
it's one of the, like, a really fancy. Well, not a really fancy. Like, it's all over the place, but it's a really good bakery in Israel, and they have all kinds of. I think each one of those costs like, 10 shekels, which is a lot. But
10 shekels.
yeah, I just had a
Perot
friend complain
Ya'ar
to me.
forest. What mascarpone
Ribat
perot?
chalav, yeah, like, whatever that's called, I don't remember how to say this.
Uh, oh, ribat chalab. Yeah, dulce
Dolce
de
de
leche.
leche.
Yeah, no. I was looking at this other one, Marcapona Perot Yar, creme microp. What's Marcapona is
Mascarpone.
almond. Mascarpone. Oh, is no mascarpone is a type of cheese.
How do I?
Vanilla, marmalade perot yar. What's perot yar?
Berries, like, yeah, like, wild berries, probably. Literally, peyote is like fruits of
Fruit,
the forest.
yeah, fruits of the forest.
I think it's
I
berries. Yeah.
understood the words. I didn't understand what they mean.
Berries, probably.
Yeah,
Petel
crust
is,
sukar petel.
yeah, petal is raspberry, I think, or
Yeah,
sunflower.
petel is raspberry, but crust. I love that word,
I don't know what
crust.
that. Yeah, I guess crust. Yeah.
The word crust means crust. That like modern Hebrew is just made to torture me. I'm telling you. Dulce pl- flor de sal? Flor de sal. So this is in Spanish, and they just put it in Hebrew letters just to make my life difficult.
Okay. How did you get this? I think I got it. Let's see.
Uh,
How did you open this? I guess maybe
oh,
on YouTube.
you can't do it with StreamYard. You have to go over to
To
you have to
YouTube.
go over to the YouTube. Yeah,
To the YouTube.
just like in Velosion.
Yeah, I'll send this to yeah. Well, this is a lot.
You'll send this to your wife and be like, we need to make sufganiyot like this.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a good idea. Maybe for the second batch.
Like none of these words. Oh, finally, they just stopped bothering with the Hebrew to begin with. See? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
just like, why are you bothering with Hebrew? Yeah. Uh, I hope this is kosher. I don't see any hechsher here.
Well, Ladin, I would assume. I mean, they're big.
So what if they're big? They're Israeli. Israelis don't believe in God.
I don't know. Check for the kosher. I don't know if they have that.
I am seeing zero haskamot. Of course,
I mean,
my
it might be
Hebrew is
per branch.
probably. I'm telling you. That one was in Ladino, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Andrew. No, the Tanya lesson's not going to fix your life. Of course it's kosher, because Kazi thinks everything's kosher. Tim Hortons is hopeless now. I've seen the real thing.
Yeah, Aladdin is pretty good.
I wouldn't know. I've never been to Roladin. I'm surprised they don't have one in Los Angeles.
They have lechamim,
Lechamim?
at least in New York. Breads.
I see.
Okay.
Okay. Should we end the stream?
Yeah, I need to go. I probably need to go get groceries.
I need to go get my car fixed.
Oh man, those sensors.
Chazi's standard of kosher is blessed by a rabbi. Chazi's standard of kosher is I don't notice anything that God would strike me down for eating. And I'm one to speak. He actually keeps kosher. Okay, end of stream.